Hello, everyone. My name is Drew Taylor. I am a reporter at TheWrap. I am also a Yellowstone superfan, so I'm so excited to bring everybody out here, starting with Samantha Pavlat, who is the assistant costume designer, Cary White, who is the production designer, Chad Galster, the editor, Aminah Nieves, who plays Tiana, yes! Brandon Sklenar, who plays Spencer Dutton. And the one, the only, Helen Mirren, Cary Dutton. Listen to that response. It's actually so cool that all these different actors are here together because you're in your own kind of little movies almost. And I was wondering what that experience was like. Were you checking in on other people, seeing what Brandon was doing in Africa or anything?
Yeah, we were very separate from each other, actually. In the same way that you see on the screen, we were very separate from each other. But we had a great experience right at the beginning of the film, which was the young ones did cowboy camp. So, learning how to, what do they call it? Rustle cattle and,
You didn't go to cowboy camp.
I went to cowboy camp. I learned how to drive my buggy.
Okay.
So yeah, but it was a great bonding experience, wasn't it, Brandon? I think all of you guys, we really became a team, a community, and a company in a sense, doing that. And then we all went off into our different spaces. I'm really hoping that we all get together at some point.
TikTok, yeah. I mean, what was it like for you guys? Because, I mean, obviously you were actually in Africa, right?
I was.
On your own little island,
Yeah.
Love Island. But yeah, what was that experience?
In Africa?
Yeah.
It was good. I mean, yeah, it was arduous. I mean, just a really unique experience to actually go to Africa and Kenya and Malta, and you're so immersed in it. Your imagination can just run wild with the character and the storyline and the circumstances because you're not on a green screen. You're not on a stage somewhere. You're out there. You're hot. You're cold. You're dirty. You're living it. I mean, and we had a very intense shooting schedule where I think we shot like 6 days a week most of the time, and you travel on the 7th day somewhere. So you're kind of in it 24/7. Yeah.
Were you wondering what everybody else was up to?
For sure, yeah. I mean, we all kept in touch. Yeah, it's a really tight crew, and I think a lot of that had to do with cowboy camp and us just being there for 6 weeks and trying to learn how to ride horses and just immerse ourselves into the world.
Agreed, but we are so tight. I think I talked to you almost every single day, you and Julia. Yeah, it was beautiful. We are such a family, and I know people say that all the time, but I mean this with my entire heart. Like, we are such a huge family. I think the first week that we all got there, we actually rented out the top of this bar, and we just danced. And Helen, you had on your little glow-in-the-dark cowboy boots. So, and I mean, and I don't know. I'm so grateful for this experience, not only to share these stories that are very important for the world to hear and witness, but also because now I have you guys and I have this beautiful family that I will never, ever leave. And I'm so grateful.
Well, I wanted to ask, what was everybody's sort of familiarity with the Yellowstone universe prior to joining? Obviously, we have a couple of veterans on the stage tonight, but was there any trepidation about joining such a kind of beloved franchise?
No trepidation, but how can I put this? I know it's. I just don't see it as a so-called franchise. I don't see it like that. I know this is going to sound super pretentious, but I see it more as an examination of the history of America, in a way that War and Peace was an examination of part of the history of Russia, seen through the eyes of family members, connections with the family. So I just see it much more like that. I hadn't personally seen a lot of Yellowstone. I'd seen some of it, but mostly I jumped on board because of Taylor's writing in his films. That is so very, very good, and it transpired that he is a brilliant writer. He really is. Our scripts arrived absolutely as complete things that you didn't want to change a word, you didn't want to add anything, you didn't want to take anything away. They were psychologically interesting to play as an actor. It was a wonderful thing.
As a writer and as a showrunner, but as a writer, I mean, he's just so brilliant. He just has such his own, he just has like his own sort of textural universe that he's created in all of his writing, and it's kind of a through line in all of it. This kind of like classic Americana. I don't know. It's like it's hard to put your finger on it, but it definitely just has a lot of texture to it. I don't know, and I've always wanted to play in that world. Kind of, it's been on my radar for a long time and something that I aspired to. And I was a huge fan of 1883 and had seen some of Yellowstone. My father's a big Yellowstone fan. But I thought 1883 was just beautiful, so stunning, and Sam Elliott, man, right? Yeah, I mean that whole cast, but I just love westerns, man. Yeah, he's great. What Helen said.
I mean, any trepidation, any nervousness about joining this?
Hell yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I didn't know of Taylor Sheridan before Yellowstone, but there's, it's getting the first script and even doing the audition scenes. It's heavy, and to re-enter that life that deeply, to really ground myself into the dirt with it, was very scary because I wanted to honor our communities here on Turtle Island as best as I could. I wanted to honor my family as best as I could, and honestly all Indigenous communities across the globe as best as I could. So it was scary.
No pressure. Yeah.
No pressure. Like, don't fuck up.
Yeah.
It was, yeah. But all in all, I am very honored to be a part of this story and to share it with the world. And Taylor is a wonderful writer for women characters, and to be a part of the show where these women are fierce and thriving and just fearless is huge.
Yeah. And for Cary and Chad, who have worked on Yellowstone and also 1883, was this sort of how was this different, I guess, than the others?
It's interesting. Like, I've been editing since Yellowstone season 1, and what I love about 1883, which was probably the highlight of my professional career, certainly next to this. I mean, each show sort of becomes my favorite thing that I've ever worked on with Taylor. But they have their own unique character. They really do. I mean, like, you could enjoy, and a lot of people did, they enjoy 1883 without knowing much of anything about Yellowstone. There are some nice little payoffs, especially towards the end, episodes 9 and 10, if you do know the world of Yellowstone, but you don't need them. Same thing with 1923. It doesn't require an encyclopedic knowledge of Yellowstone. And I think what Helen said is absolutely right. I mean, it's a framework by which we're examining this point in history, and it's a convenient framework for us, but it's a rich world unto itself, and he has this incredible ability to create characters that you want to follow through these different eras in history. So they have 1883 had a certain feel to it. 1923, the way that we talk about it is sort of an old Hollywood like sweep to it. It's grand and majestic. And so, yeah, each show has its own character. They're really fun. I'm always surprised when I read them. I'm like, oh, this is different, without feeling purposeful or effort, full of effort. It's just different.
It is set in this kind of amazing transitional period where the Old West is kind of meeting modern America. So I was wondering, in terms of costumes, how did you walk that line? Was it incredibly difficult? What was the process there?
The process was really fast and furious, honestly. We had to really just dig deep into the decade into the time period. Everyone thinks that the 20s are like all short flapper dresses and Great Gatsby, but it really wasn't. And especially in Montana at that time, it wasn't. So we really just had to do so much research, and we had to get very creative in terms of like where we sourced all our costumes from. We actually had to send someone to Italy and to Spain just to get costumes for some of the townsfolk. Yeah, it was really incredible. And honestly, it was like so exciting for us to tell so many different stories. Like we got to do the ranchers and the sheepers, but we also got to do the townspeople who, you know, were more well dressed. And then we got to also do the safari and the royalty. And we also got to tell this amazing story of the residential school. So we got to do so much, and it was like such a pleasure and a rare opportunity to be able to tell so many different stories in one show in 8 episodes.
It was an insane adventure.
Okay.
You know, working for Taylor is pretty crazy. And for me, I worked with him. We did 3 seasons of Yellowstone, and then on this, we had to recreate that entire Yellowstone world, and that's a little pressure.
Yeah.
You said it was Fast and Furious for you. We had all the time in the world. Oh, yeah, sure. No, it was insane.
Well, everybody is here because of Taylor Sheridan, obviously. And I wanted to ask about his process, because he's sort of famously said that he doesn't really give a lot of direction or sort of context to the actors. So I wanted to know what that was like for you guys, and if that kind of extended to the creative side of things. Were you given much direction, or did you kind of just go off and make it happen?
Yeah, no direction. But we kind of loved it. He really trusted us, like every single person. And I remember one time he actually called me and he was like, "Tiger, don't change anything, just keep on going." And I was like, okay, honestly, thank you, because I didn't know how I'm feeling because I'm moving out of so much. But no direction, and even when there was direction, it was very subtle, because I think they really focus on capturing the human that you are in that moment. You know, they're not here to capture something made up. They only want to capture something real, and they wait for those special moments to happen, and they do it.
I think a big thing that I learned on this, and through Taylor and through Ben Richardson, is Taylor's writing is such that there are scenes, as an actor, you read them and you think, oh, this is going to be a big scene. This is a really important moment. And you want to play those moments. As an actor, you get excited, and you know, they're always kind of scaling you back, because you say, okay, well, if you give the audience this moment in episode 2, when you really need to give them that moment in episode 6, it's not going to land as much. So really playing the long game and building the arc of this character. And I had to keep that in mind in even season 1, and things I would want to show and bring out that I had to save for season 2, because the arc is that sweeping. So it's this sort of jigsaw puzzle you're putting together as you're building it. And as an actor, it was great, because you're constantly restraining it and restraining it and restraining it, so that when these colors pop and these emotions come out, they're for good reason, and they're super intentional, and they're moving the story forward. And so they were really great in really subtly, like Aminah pointed out, steering the ship in that way, but very hands-off, very, very hands-off. And yeah, I just want you to be you, and obviously the characters layered on top of that. But yeah, it was a really beautiful working creative experience for sure.
His trust in his directors, and Ben Richardson, Taylor's very much Ben's mentor, and he has utter trust of both Ben and Guy. We worked with 2 different directors. Ben went off to work in Africa, and then but I think his trust of his directors is extreme, and absolutely incredibly hands off. The only time I worked directly with Taylor, and it was wonderful to have that experience, was when I was doing the narration, you know, reading the letters. And, you know, being an actress, I wanted to sort of fill it with emotion and feeling and and all drama and stuff. And every note he gave was take it away, do less, and it was a real lesson for me. I have to say, it was to get to understand how you can do so much more by doing much less. It doesn't always work, because sometimes there's just nothing there at all. But that just it was a great lesson, and I loved those. That session I had with him. He was on the phone. He wasn't, in the room with me. So that was the only time I kind of directly got directed by him.
And you said, "Do you know who I am, Taylor Sheridan?"
No, the thing about our work is that we are always learning. You never stop learning. And especially if you have a masterful teacher like that, you listen.
He is somewhere listening to this and beaming. But what about on the creative side? I mean, does he kind of leave you to your own devices, or is he checking in and guiding?
No, he'll tell you if you screw up, but he just kind of, I think, trusts us to get it done and done right, and that's kind of the way we roll with it.
Yeah.
That's true for every department. I mean, what you're saying is in a way what they're saying. Like, if Taylor thinks you're doing something wrong, he will tell you.
Right.
But he hires people in the on the side of things that he believes are good at their job. He casts people for who they already are, and he waits to see what they bring to it. And you find out if he's happy when you're asked to come back for another season, or what have you. Yeah. It's great. I did something. I mean, I work with him pretty closely just because of the nature of what editing is, but what I've seen, what Cary's describing, is exactly what I've seen with the cast. Having worked with him on a lot of these other shows, he doesn't have a lot to say, because you are there because of who you already are and what you are already bringing to that role.
Yeah, and your gears will spin.
Yeah,
for sure, in that environment. But it's also great because once you get through that, he makes it such where you have to evolve as an actor, and you have to evolve as a person in this. He puts that responsibility on you, and it's a real gift. It really is in the end. But it's tough at first, because you're like, oh, is this going okay? I hope this is going okay. I haven't heard anything. Yeah, a little paranoid. But yeah, it's just really, really special experience creatively.
Well, the other super important up and coming guy that's not here tonight is Harrison Ford, obviously. And I just wanted to know, what that experience of working with him was like. Helen, he told me that he signed on because of you, and then you told me that he signed on because of it. So what is the truth?
Well, the truth is of that, maybe we just both did it at the same time simultaneously, but certainly part of the reason I signed on was because Harrison, I was told, was involved already. So, I don't know how that worked out, but, he's amazing, Harrison. He really is. When you think the stature he's held as a major, humongous movie star, ever since I worked with him for the first time, which was like 30 years ago.
On Mosquito Coast?
On Mosquito Coast, yes. And he was already a huge star then, and he has maintained that status. Amazing, all that time. At the same time as being someone who really doesn't like to be in the spotlight, being someone who really, I think, would prefer to be at home, in his carpentry, sawing on a piece of wood. It's because he has this interior sort of quality to him. But he's come to a place, I think, where he can now be easy with other actors, and is just immensely generous and incredibly professional, not remotely sort of spoilt movie starry thing at all. I genuinely actually love him, and if I wasn't married.
Is Taylor here?
I'll tell you something. I shouldn't tell you this, but I will. I had to be in the bed with him,
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, I'm dressed up to here, and he is as well. But I'm lying there. I'm thinking, I'm in bed with Harrison Ford. I was so excited. I can't tell you. And I couldn't. I had to pretend to be cool. Don't tell him. Promise me, every one of you, right now, say, I promise you, Helen, I won't tell Harrison. Thank you.
Brandon has a funny Harrison Ford story, too, of when you guys first met. Oh, yeah. They weren't in bed together, but...
It was a futon. We were at cowboy camp, and we were in a rodeo arena and doing a bunch of drills around barrels and whatnot. And I had this horse called Spanky. And it's super temperamental. And when he was done for the day, he was done. And it was one of those times when Spanky was done. And I was loping pretty hard, pretty fast. And he just took a hard right towards the gates. He was trying to go home. And I'm like, shit, I hope I don't run into these gates. And I come to this, just stop just before the gates. And as I stop, this gentleman's walking up. He had a ball cap on. He's moving kind of slow. And he's sauntering over. I'm like, oh, who's this guy? I'm just going to say hi to this guy. No idea who it was. And he just hops up on the gates all spry. He kind of looks right at me. And then within 2 seconds, I was like, oh, shit. It's Harrison Ford. And I was like, what's up, man? And he's like, hey, are you the Star Wrangler? And I was like, he's like, how are the actors doing? And I was like, oh, no, I'm an actor. I play Spencer Dutton. And he goes, so how are the actors doing? And I was like, no, I mean, I play Spencer Dutton. And then he kind of looked at me and he had that classic Harrison Ford grin. And he's like, very cool. Nice to meet you. He's just he genuinely is such a shining example of how you can be, having, like Helen said, at just being at such a pinnacle for so many people for that long in the zeitgeist and pop culture, whatever you want to call it. And he just so doesn't care. You can just tell he's just him. And it's really great because he's so kind and so cool and really does the work. I mean, he's an actor first and foremost. He truly is. That guy was out in -15 on a horse, just sending it, knowing all of his lines. It's crazy. It's amazing. It's really amazing.
Mine is the same exact one as his, but I just ran up later because I was like, who's this dude? I thought it was a different director. And he was just like, Harrison. I was like, okay, I didn't know it was him until afterwards. It's not as funny as his.
Brandon, were you disappointed? You're like, I'm Spencer Dutton. I'm going to spend all this time with Harrison Ford.
I was, actually. Yeah. I was telling all of my friends. I was like, I'm going to act with Harrison Ford. This is the coolest. Yeah, I mean, he's Harrison Ford. And I was bummed. But...
Season 2.
Yeah. Yeah. We had a there was one time it was just the two of us in the makeup trailer, and they were futzing with my mustache, which was a whole thing, my mustache. And it's just him and I in there, and I was like, man, I really hope we get some time together, I just hope you're not dead by the time I get back. And he kind of shot me a look, because we both have pretty dry humor, and he kind of shot me a look, and he's like, and I was like, because I just really want some time for us to spend together, I just don't want you to die. And he stood up real fast, he stomped on the ground, he's like, I'm not dead, I'm not dying. And he's like, I'll see you later. He's great.
I think we need to know more about the mustache, though. What happened? Was it not? It was not real?
No, it's real. My facial hair grows very fast. So you're constantly trimming the thing. And if you trim it too much, it's a nightmare. So there was a running gag on set. He had his own makeup bag. It said Brandon's mustache, had creams and things in it, and scissors and the whole thing. But it's a bit.
Chad, any consistency issues with the mustache and
The
editorial?
mustache was on point the entire season. They did.
Yeah, okay.
I have no complaints about the mustache department or the originator of the mustache.
It's so silly. It's ridiculous. Like when you never concerned about a mustache until you have to be concerned about your mustache because of continuity.
Let's talk about just wrangling this thing together, because I understand that Taylor shoots with a lot of cameras, or the show shoots with a lot of cameras very quickly. Was this a new experience for you guys?
Well, the biggest problem I had with that shooting lots of angles thing is, we built that lodge from Yellowstone up there outside of Butte, Montana, and it's a huge thing. From the get-go, I talked to Taylor, and I said, and showed him pictures and everything. I said, we're going to do this three-walled facade of the lodge. Okay, fine. Then one night at midnight, I get a call from Taylor, and he said, don't you remember I told you we need to do the fourth side of that? And I go, no, I don't remember that, but if we need a fourth side, I'll do it. And so we built, I don't know if it still qualifies as a facade when you do all four sides, but we built the whole damn thing, and you could shoot it from every angle, and they had cameras shooting it from every angle.
Some of the early episodes it actually wasn't done, so there was blue screen, parts of the roofs and all that. So some of the early episodes were CG replacing it, but then by the end it was just pointing camera at it.
It ended up the whole thing, for sure.
As far as the amount of footage, I mean, we shot with 5 cameras, which I think most of the folks here will know. It's not typical. Usually it's 3, maybe 4. We shot with 5 all the time. It was mostly a time constraint situation. We started shooting this show in August, and episode 1 premiered in December, which is absurd. For the scale of production, I mean, December 3rd is the day that we premiered in Las Vegas. And so to us, that was we had to show it to an audience like this. So it was just in the interest of getting everything done and having a proper amount of coverage. It's rarely get an editor to say they want less material. So I thought it was fine. I think it was probably different for you folks having 5 different cameras pointing your way, but I thought it was great.
You've done it before, though?
No, I'd never done it before. Okay. No, maybe 3. Robert Altman used multiple, not 5, maybe 3 cameras, but I absolutely loved it. I thought it was fantastic because you get it keeps everything very fresh, and you're almost, it's like, because you don't know, you're in close up. That was the only thing that I had to sort of get used to, was the fact that you were in close up at the same time as you're in a mid shot, as the same time that you're in a full shot. So I'm used to sort of calibrating what I do to the shot, to the camera. So if it's a close up, I know it doesn't matter what my feet are doing, and I would calibrate my physicality according to the shot. But here, so because of that, you basically just had to be completely real from top to toe, and not sort of think about whether you were in close-up or, a wide shot. You just had to be real in the moment and forget about all that sort of thing. And obviously it's wonderful for continuity, maybe not the moustache, but for other, the other continuity. And I absolutely loved it. And it meant, we did maybe 3-4 takes.
3 or 4 was typical. Rarely went beyond that.
Tops 3 to 4 takes. And I love working like that. I love working fast and instinctively and not thinking too much, you're just letting it happen. I loved it.
You have to bring your A game every time, right? If you know you only got 3 shots, you're right.
You couldn't mess around. Right.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have that awareness of your lens and what lens size they're on and what your angle is and how to sort of fill up that painting, if it were, in that frame. And it's kind of this thing that's over here while you're doing the thing that you're kind of aware of. And then that malfunctions when you look around and there's 5 cameras pointing at you, and you like you said, you kind of have to just get out of it, and it's almost like you're on stage at that point. And somehow they find it. They really do. It does free you up once you get used to it, to just be there and to not even think about this wall of cameras on you, and you just kind of hit it. And yeah, I mean, a lot of the World War I stuff is all one take. Most of that's shooting the rehearsal, because we shot all the World War I stuff in one day, I think. One or two. No, I think it was one day. Yeah. I think it was 1 or 2 days. I think it was one day. Right? It was one day.
Let's call it one day.
Yeah, I think it was. It was 1 or 2.
I remember a couple.
1 or 2. I was a little concussed, so I don't really remember. And I also love that. I mean, just one take, and you got to hit it. You got to blow yourself up and land here, and then stand up and get that close-up coverage here, and it's exciting. You know, the sun's going down, 400 extras. You got to hit it. I like it. I like that.
Intense but rewarding.
Super intense, super rewarding, because I think when you're in these circumstances that all of us were in, it's exhausting emotionally and spiritually, mentally, all the ways. So you kind of are in a trance. I don't know if you guys felt the same. And you do really just forget about everything else around you. There was times where I had no clue even where the 3rd, 4th, 5th camera were. And I loved it that way. It was incredible. You just can be raw and open, and it was beautiful.
Sam, what about costumes? You couldn't have anybody wearing Nikes on set. No.
He doesn't like to use VFX to fill people in these big street scenes. So it's like, oh no, you have 250 people today to dress or whatever. And everyone has to be perfect. So it's a challenge, but it's fun. I mean, I think it's why we do what we do.
And you're incredible at it.
Thank you.
Sam was nervous about being on this panel, so we need to really give her a huge round of applause. We're going to wrap it up in a minute, but I just wanted to talk about the reception of the show. Were you guys surprised by how passionately people were consuming this, and they had fan theories and all of that? And sort of what can you tease about season 2?
I wish I could tease, like a little teaser, but we don't even have...
You have no idea.
We have no clue. No
Okay.
script. No nothing, but there's many theories out in the world.
Yeah.
What's one of your favorite theories?
We're going to space. It's a interstellar 1923 crossover. We're in the Tesseract, and yeah.
I'm into it. You're dodging the question because a lot of the speculation centers on you.
Nah.
No. You don't know.
Genuinely don't know. Genuinely.
Just looking forward to opening that first script, seeing where we go. It's a bit like real life, I have really not much idea of what's going to be happening in my life next week. The script hasn't been written. I haven't read the script for my life next week. And, and that's...
I have, it's great.
That's what this work is like.
He said he has, and it's great.
I like just to do the work and passionately involve myself in it and then let it do its thing. So I don't know about how the show's been received or not received.
Oh, really?
No idea. I just hope and pray that people love it because we love doing it. So
I think they did.
yeah.
Well, I want to thank our amazing panel members. Tell everybody about the show, I guess. I think everybody's already watched it, Helen. But yes, it will be back for season 2. And guys, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Drew.